I'm going to do a quick little video and just a refresher on simplifying fractions. All right, first of all, let's just make sure we understand that when we simplify a fraction, it is still the same amount. We're just looking at basically calling it a different name. So if you look at my picture here, you can see that a half is the same thing as 2/4, which is the same thing as 3/6, which is the same thing as 4/8. So it's always the same amount. It's just kind of written in a different way. Okay, so when I talk about simplifying fractions, if I had 4/8, I could simplify it down to 1/2, which means it's the same amount, it's just written differently. Okay, it's just written differently. All right, so let's just make sure that we understand here. So when we simplify fractions, number one, the easiest way to simplify fractions is to find the greatest common factor. If you find the greatest common factor and divide both the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor, then you're only going to have to divide one time. Okay, you're only going to have to divide one time. So if I look at 12/18ths, the greatest common factor between 12 and 18 is 6. So if I divide by 6, 12 divided by 6 is 2, 18 divided by 6 is 3. So that gives me 2/3. Okay, but however, if for sometimes you cannot think of the greatest common factor, if you're not using your chart, or you can just think of other numbers, you just might have to divide more than once, which is fine. As long as you come up with the end result of 2/3, that's fine. Okay, so if I look at this one right here, so 6/48, maybe off the top of your head, you don't know what the common factor, the greatest common factor is, but you know a common factor, you know it's even. So you know you can divide by 2. So if I divide both of them by 2, I get 3/24. Well, then you look at it and you realize, oh, wait a second, yep, I can divide that by 3 as well. So you divide by 3 and you get 1/8. Okay, so as long as in the end you get the final, the simplified fraction, I don't really care how you go along the way of doing it. This is the easiest to find the greatest common factor, but if it's easier for you to just keep dividing by 2 and 5 and things like that, that's fine as well. Okay. All right, so this is just an example of showing you the different ways. So I have 24/40, that's my fraction. But if you notice, I divided it in different ways. So if I look, I divided it because I knew it was even. So I divided it by 2 and I got 12/20. Okay, but that's still not in its lowest terms. I still know it's even again. So I'm going to divide by 2 again and I get 6/10. But wait a minute, that's still even. So I'm going to divide by 2 again, and I get 3/5. Okay? But if I look at this way, I notice that it had a common factor of 4. So when I divide by 4, I got 6/10, which is the same thing I got right there. But it's still even, so I need to divide by 2, and I get 3/5, which is simplified. Can't do anything else. Or if you look at it here, if you divide it by 8, which is the greatest common factor, the largest factor they have in common, I got 3/5 the very first time. Okay? So again, I don't care your process as long as you get to the final answer. Now, for me personally, it's easiest if I find the greatest common factor. Okay? All right, so let's do some examples here. All right, so if you look, I'm going to do this 2-row with you. If I look at this right here, first of all, I know it's even, so I might just divide by 2, but I want to think if there's anything larger, any factor that they have in common that's larger than 2. And I can't think about it, so I'm just going to divide by 2. So 6 divided by 2 equals 3, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. And they have no common factors, so I'm finished. Okay, let's look at this one. Again, these are even. So I might right away just divide by 2, but I'm going to wait and think, is there anything larger that I can divide by? Well, you know what? I can divide by 4. So I'm going to divide by 4. So 16 divided by 4 is 4, and 36 divided by 4 is 9. Okay? All right, why don't you pause the video, and I want you to do the other 4 problems. Pause the video and come back when you have your answer. All right, check on that one. Did you get that? Okay, remember, you could have divided by 2 if you wanted to, and you would have gotten 12/16, but you would have had to have divided again. Maybe you divided by 4 this time and got 3/4. Okay, same outcome. Okay, just different process. All right, Check, make sure you're done with the other ones. Pause it if you're not. All right, here are your answers. Okay. All right. Remember, you can use those divisibility rules that we talked about. Remember, you know a number can be divided by 2 if it is even. We know a number is divisible by 5. Remember, divisible means you can divide and there's no remainder if it ends with a 0 or 5. We know you can divide a number by 10 if it ends with 0. Remember, your 3 and 9 are a little different. You look at the sum of the digits. Okay, you look at the sum of the digits to see if that number is divisible by 3. And then a number is divisible by 6 if it is both even and divisible by 3. Okay, all right, homework tonight, you're going to have some simplifying fraction problems. If you have any questions, make sure you talk to me or send me an email. All right, have a great day, guys.